Welcome back to Switch to Linux. So today we're going to have a look at a spin on the OpenSUSE distro, and we're going to look at the Gecko Linux. So Gecko Linux is supposed to be a OpenSUSE distro that is completely functional out of the box, so you don't have to spend a lot of time working with it. Very similar to how Kororo is to Fedora, where it will have a lot of the things working completely out of the box, but it is the same distro on top of everything. And so if you looked at my discussion yesterday saying, hey, maybe we need to stop thinking about, a little bit more terminology in the Linux community, I would classify this, in this case, as a spin under OpenSUSE. So OpenSUSE would be the distro. This would be a spin, just basically meaning that they've done a few different things with the repositories, and they have made some adjustments to some of the software packages. And more importantly, for your average user, if you want to run OpenSUSE because you hear great things about it, but you don't want to be fighting with the media codexes, Gecko Linux might be a good place to go because all of the audio codexes and video codexes are installed by default. And so depending on where your philosophy lies in that may be a positive for you, it may be a negative for you. But with that, here is their main website. It's at geckolinux.github.io. And you can have a look at their site and read all about it. You can see here that they're scrolling through the various desktop environments available. That is another great thing about this spin here, is that it is available in all of your most popular desktop environments. And so you can see some of the features they have. You do have a option for a full offline USB live key. And that is great. Almost all of these distros are right about 1 gigabyte in size. However, they're downloading from SourceForge. And for me, for whatever reason, that download took a couple of hours. Versus if I'm downloading something on a torrent, even twice the size, it only takes 10-15 minutes. And so while the size is not huge, where it, regionally, it may be a little bit different download time because of how it's hosted and where it's hosted. And so you do have the option of the various desktop environments, and we do have open source and proprietary media codecs pre-installed, and I did my tests here. I was able to very quickly, without any fighting with it, connect it to my network, download a movie, download a song, everything played perfectly fine. So no real issues out of that. They do talk about one of the differences between Gecko and OpenSUSE is that they have configured font rendering, which I guess is a problem in OpenSUSE. I've only really experimented with OpenSUSE for about a month. I ran that on my main media computer here, ran OpenSUSE for a month in the Enlightenment desktop. I did not notice any fonting issues. Maybe that was because I was running it on Enlightenment. I don't know. We also have some of the differences listed are the repos. They deal with your dependencies better in Gecko, apparently, versus OpenSUSE. And if you're used to Gecko and OpenSUSE, let me know in the comments if this is true, if this is, what is the difference that you see. So you also have the ability, just like OpenSUSE, you can download in Leap, which is a static, versus Tumbleweed, which is a rolling release. You have the same for Gecko. So you can grab the rolling release Gecko, or you can grab the static release Gecko. And I think probably the first one's probably the static, the second one's probably the rolling. Yep, that's what it says right there. So you can pick your desktop environment. We have Cinnamon, XFCE, GNOME, Plasma, Mate, Budgie, and LXQT, and of course the CLI. And so with this, you can choose whichever one of these distros or whichever one of the desktop environments, rather, you'd like to have on your platform. And one of the only things that really threw me out of the box right away is that when you first install it, I had downloaded this a little over a week ago, planning to do this video whenever I had the free evening to spend some time looking at it. And I totally forgot that they do specify here that you do need the password even to log into it. When you first boot this in, you go in, you can't even access the live key without entering the password, which is Linux. Username and password is Linux, all lowercase. And that was kind of the only thing that kind of threw me for a loop there. You'd boot right into the live key. I did not see the option to install it without booting into the live key first. But once you are into the live key, there is the option right at the top to install the system, and it uses the Calamaris installer. And I installed the entire system in a VirtualBox in probably less than 30 minutes, and then I spent about another 5 or so minutes just doing the required updates, which was very painless and very quick. So with that, you can have a look at the rest of their site. We're going to go ahead and boot up the VirtualBox here. Of course, I am doing this all on VirtualBox today, and hopefully that is just fine. So we're going to boot right into this, and I do have it set so I can boot right into it without the password. That is an option that is... it is an option that was pre-selected, so if you want to put in a password to first log in, you want to make sure you uncheck that in the box, versus many distros require you to check the box to auto log in. So it's a little bit different from some of the other installers. So here we are. It's pretty much unedited. You can see I dropped Beethoven's Fifth Symphony over here on the desktop, and it does play right out of the box. So it is very smooth in its transitions. It does smoothly shut off the song once I turn it off. We can see here that the menu here, this is LXQT, so it's a more lightweight desktop environment. But it really reminds me on Linux Mint. Not only are they using the same icons, which helps kind of reinforce the whole Linux Mint looking thing. But in addition to that, they also seem to have a whole lot of disk utilities and just system utilities that are very handy to have. And so, Archive Manager, Calculator, they're using the Pacman File Manager, Pluma for your basic editing. We have settings, screenshot application. Under the graphics, we have scanning programs, a couple image viewing programs, LibreOffice Draw. Now, I installed Google Chrome. The only reason I did that is I saw it in the repository, and I was like, let's just see if Google Chrome installs without a hitch, and yes, it does. We do have Pigeon for IM, Transmission for torrents, Thunderbird is the default email application. The rest of LibreOffice is on here. Now, one of the things I didn't like is that I'm used to on Cinnamon, if you do not have anything in a particular menu item, then it will not display that item. So there's nothing under Other or Programming, yet they still appear on the menu despite there's nothing in those categories. So over here with your sound and video, I also put OBS on here. Mostly I did this just to test installing something on the command line, testing adding a PPA on the command line and everything else. Clementine is the default audio player, and VLC is the default video player. Then we have Pulse Audio volume control, and then under your system tools, see we have a lot of different system tools. There are two terminals installed. There's the Mate and the X terminal. I used the Mate because it actually allowed copy and pasting, versus my X terminal was not allowing me to paste anything. Let's have a quick look at the Task Manager. It looks like we are running this right now on 325 megabytes of memory, which is quite incredibly small. So if you are looking for a lightweight distro in the OpenSUSE-like family, this might be your option. I'm hard-pressed to think we could get this any lower without running like Puppy or something. And so you can see the Task Manager there. And then down here we have, under your preferences, this is where you're going to find all of your various settings. So here's your configuration center. So inside of here, you can do all of your different configurations. Like many Linux distros and Linux platforms, you can actually get in here and do a lot of customization. So coming into your appearance, You can change how your basic appearance looks, GTX, Fusion, and Windows looks. So I kind of like the GTX version there. Your icon theme, as I'd said, I don't really care for the icons, so I can just change them. Now, it looks like it's not as easy as like KDE. There's an extra option there to just go right online to install new icon packs. We can't do that quite as easily here, but if you download the icon packs from online, drop them in the icons folder, that would work. And so I'll just go ahead and keep the Oxygen icons there. We have a few different themes we can choose from some lighter, some lighter themes, some darker themes, some more modern UI, older looking UI. So there are a lot of different options to choose from here as far as what your theming looks like. And so you have a lot of your options available to you, no matter what you're looking for. And then of course you can look for some extra themes as well. Here's your fonts, and then your cursors, so you can adjust your cursors as you see fit. All right, so brightness and settings. Your desktop will configure your images there. I did not have a look at any images available, so I'm not sure if there are more images or not, where they might be. Let's see, user share wallpaper. Let's just go ahead and look at user share wallpaper, see what we can find. Yep. And downside is we can't really see what these are without actually going in and seeing them. So we're just going to go ahead and leave this wallpaper. So this might be the only wallpaper you have. You can set your icon sizes over here, font sizes, and then you can have a look at what the rest of these settings do. Desktop notifications. So you can specify where your desktop notification happens to be. You won't be able to see that one because my image is in the way. You can put them right up in the middle. That's kind of neat because you can really put the notifications where you kind of want to see them. And that's actually a nice system. And then here's your durations, spacings, etc. File associations. This is actually missing from several of the Linux distros out there. So it's very nice to have this as an option inside of here where we can go ahead and select your default applications and even your icons for different file types. Date and time, your firewall. Let's see the firewall out of the box. Some people don't like how some of the firewalls are disabled out of the box. Some people would really prefer them to be disabled out of the box. So that's kind of an interesting system. It does look like, let's see, firewall is not running. So it looks like out of the box the firewall is not enabled. So now the firewall is working. So it looks like it does not run itself out of the box, and so you are going to want to come in here if you are using this and need to use the firewall. You can go in here and enable that as you are setting it up. Hostname is nice if you're doing anything network related. You can go ahead and set all your hostname stuff here. This is the thing I like about OpenSUSE is it does have a boatload of different options available to you. A lot more options than you find in many other places. So very readily configurable. You can see here that, let's see. This looks like Google Chrome was put in here. I did not add any of these repositories, so they've even put Skype repositories in here by default. They put the Google repositories in here by default. This, depending on who you are and what you use, would be a positive or a negative. I would probably use the Skype if this were a daily driver because I do actually use Skype for business communication. I know a lot of people have said, try this or try that. It's not a feasible problem, thing for me, because I'm a web development business and I need to be able to communicate with people in a platform they use. And I'd use a whole lot of business if I tell people, I don't use Skype because blah, blah, blah. So if you use this, I'll talk to you online. Not a viable thing. So any potential replacements for Skype in my office have to be completely viable and readily used by the mainstream. So I would actually install Skype. Google, I would not use either of these. Although I did install Google Chrome on here, it's not a platform, it's not a system that I use at all. So I would probably take that out. And then, of course, you can see all of the OpenSUSE Leap. I thought I'd downloaded the Tumbleweed, but maybe I downloaded the Leap. Or maybe they use the same repository for each. I'm not completely sure. But regardless, we do have the Pac-Man up there as well. You'll see the priorities are set how they're set. See, here's your sudo. This is the good thing about OpenSUSE, is if you really want to learn what a lot of the functions in Linux do, it's a little bit more complex than other platforms and other distros. However, it does really help you learn a lot about how Linux works in the core. Of course, Yast is an application that will help you with a lot of these settings as well. You can change your date and time. One of the great things about it is it does have the option to change and look at the bootloaders and things like that, so you can configure your bootloader with it. And that's more to do with OpenSUSE in general. Now, onto a few of the negatives that I had found. Well, apparently we've lost our icons on the top. That's a potential negative. That might have just been from messing around with the themes while recording a video. One of the things I wanted to do is look at installing some software. And so when I came up and went to install remove software, this guy does not work. Maybe it's just because we're on a VirtualBox, but it gets down to here. It tells me the following packages have not been found on the medium, %F. And then it just crashes on me. So I can't install software from there. We do have I think it's a software management is the place where you can install from. I think this is the case. Yep. So here is this is the kind of like the Yast software manager that you can use. So this guy here. You can come down here and you can select by package groups. So if you want to go with games or anything else, you get a platform that if you're used to using like Semantic, it will be very similar to that. We can search for packages. So I saw that these Skype repositories there. So let's go ahead and search for Skype. Now this is the downside is... there's a lot of different things that show up. I don't know if I need all of these or not. Let's just go ahead and accept this. So it is going to it is going to tell me the other dependencies I need to install. So that's fine. We're going to go ahead and do that. Just going to see if Skype will come on here and boot up. So it's not like they leave you without a software manager, but the more graphical one, or what appears to be the more graphical one, does not seem to work out of the box. And I'm not sure if that's my system setup or if it's because we're on a VirtualBox. So if you're using this, look into that software manager, see if you're getting that same error or if it's just me. All right. So 66. You see it's doing its thing. It's right now it's working on downloading the packages. Okay, now we're installing. And now it's apparently downloading Skype at this point. Let's see. Okay, so let's see. Not sure where that would have installed. So that installed under Internet. Let's see what we're going to get here. Sure, I agree to give up every bit of my life to Microsoft. Why not? Okay, and we're not actually going to log in here, but so it's Skype 4.3. Let me see what current version Skype is running right now. Going to have a look at what current versions over here on Skype is. The unfortunate thing about Linux is the Skype system. They're working on one Skype system that will kind of be used everywhere across the board. It's in an alpha right now. I've looked at it a couple times. It's not very good. Okay, so over here we're at 4.3.0.37. And I'm not sure if we're at anything more than 4.3 over here. Let's see, 4.3.0.3.7, so it's the same version. Yep. So that is the most recent version of Skype, unfortunately. And it does not share screens well, is the problem with it. I can't seem to share a screen on Skype. Well, I can share my screen just fine. I just can't have somebody else share their screen with me because it comes through all pixelated and it's pretty much impossible to see. And that just happened at 4.3. 4.2 was apparently fine, so I think Microsoft killed it intentionally. Now, of course, they're pushing everyone to their alpha package, which is currently a mess. So on Linux, Skype works fine if you want to do voice conversations or chatting, but sharing screens is not very good. But fortunately, there's other options for screen sharing out there. All right, so your online update is over here. This does work pretty flawlessly. I ran the update and it worked just fine. We do not have a Windows Meta key on here, which is something that I like to use frequently for more efficient working. See, so over here we have your various options. I'm just gonna see if let's see if Kdenlive is in here or not. So Kdenlive is let's see, nothing provides. So this is actually a similar challenge that I've seen there, and that might be because we're on Qt and not GTK, and I do not have a lot of knowledge about the interfacing between the two. I'm not sure if we're running into that's the same exact challenge I saw installing OBS. I just have not Googled the issue to see about how to resolve that, which I'm sure I could quickly find the solution for that online. So everything else, I have no idea why HP Device Manager is on here. That's fascinating. Let me boot that up. Yeah, no HP devices found. No kidding. Yeah, nor will there ever be. I have a personal grudge against HP. I will never buy their products, and I will never recommend their products. They can go out of business as far as I'm concerned, and I'd be happy. All right, let's see if there's anything else in here. So that's kind of, it on in a nutshell. So as far as Gecko is concerned, if you are wanting to run an OpenSUSE install, Gecko might be a good option for you. The advantage of it is OpenSUSE with a lot of the work of getting the codecs to work, etc., taken out. That may or may not be something that is important to you, but it is certainly something worthy of consideration. We do have a lot of system resources on here out of the box, and so there's a lot of disk utilities that are very useful. And so I would say overall, this is a very useful distro. Or maybe I should say spin, since it is based on OpenSUSE. It is a very nice spin on OpenSUSE in that a lot of things work out of the box. I could not get that the GUI software manager working out of the box, and there's a few programs on there installed that I couldn't get working, and of course there's the issue of the one package that interfered with both Kdenlive and OBS, and I simply have not done an internet search on how to resolve that. I'm sure that if I go in there, if I were to be running this on a regular basis, and I needed to run those packages, I would probably pretty easily figure out the solution to that. So with that being said, this has been the Gecko Linux spin based on OpenSUSE. And overall, I think it's a really good system, really good platform to use. I'm not quite as knowledgeable about the command line interface in the OpenSUSE branch. It is a little bit different than the Debian branch that I'm used to being in. But it is a very widely used and very stable platform. Overall, pretty well recommended. So I hope that has been helpful in just having a real quick overview of LXQT Gecko. And with that, I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.